Hello, I'm Vera Diogo from the School of Higher Education of the Politécnico Institute of Porto in Portugal. I'm presenting with my colleague, Pedro Duarte. We are part of a multidisciplinary team at INED, developing the project Bipedal. Our acronym comes from a basic human characteristic. We walk on two legs. Is it strange to be stating the obvious? When we ask people what our acronym means, they often focus on the pedals. Apparently, in our age, technology is the focus. And I come now to my problems with this presentation. That clashes directly with some of our assumptions in this project, which is focused on the educative potential of velomobility. First assumption is an integrated view of cognition, emotion, and movement. So the movement is not working very well here. Another assumption is that human development is biopsychosocial. And the third one is that the bicycle is a tool to experience reality, to experience the self, to experience our relationships with each other and with the space we live in. And according to some literature, it can also tend to develop a critical perspective of that space and its conditions, particularly in our contexts of dominant automobility. We also come from the conception and the movement of educating cities that connects the multidimensionality of education with an integrated view of the development of territories, and the city as a genuine place of encounter and therefore of learning at informal, non-formal, and formal levels. This is highly important in our project, which is an action research project. As our finality and our goals can clarify, in order to promote this potential, this educative potential of velomobility, we need to analyze the current culture, the existing barriers, and also the existing motivators, and then to expand and broadcast the motivators, the connections between the uses of bicycles and these other variables. We are now in the first stage of our project, having started to experience with students by bicycle itineraries developed by students in the area of cultural heritage. We also launched a questionnaire to know the uses of bicycles of all the members of our school and identify actions that the school can take in order to promote particularly the utilitarian use of the bicycle. We are analyzing 13 focus groups with students, and we intend to do more and expand this to other groups of members of our school. This is the question that brought us together. Cycling is tacit knowledge that muscles work, generating sensations that trigger emotions, thoughts, attitudes, and interaction. Therefore, what we learn by cycling can unveil how we learn as integral human beings, body, mind. If learning in the broad sense of biopsychosocial development is a human trait, then knowing what we learn by cycling can also shed light on human nature. What is it to be human? Here we highlight the perception of our embodied experiences. Hence, the body has been forgotten, dominated, and restricted to certain narrow views and contexts. This perspective is based on the assumption that culture includes nature. It shapes it, but does not replace it. As evolutionary biologists have discovered more than 160 years ago, humans are a part of nature. Evolution is not only explained by competition, but also by cooperation and anarchy. Throughout human history, conquering nature as well as conquering other people, other individuals or groups, that is, in a word, domination, has been a constant trend. It can be seen as a result of competition, or we can focus on the cooperation that it requires, particularly between those that are in different sides of the power games. The city is a perfect field to study human nature, its history and actuality, as sociology has explored since its first steps. Like time, space is one of the embodied external factors internalized in our identity construction. Once space is society, all space is social space. In the city, particularly, all space is man-made. But curiously enough, a tendency of humanization of space has grown from the necessity of fighting for the right to the city and reshaping urban areas according to the human measure. What is human in the city? What is alive in what we call city life? Automobility has contributed to move us away from our human nature, body, mind, by deluding us to believe we can overcome and ignore our physical limitations, while simultaneously dominate and restrict our body to an extent that we lose our physical abilities and deteriorate our health. What consequences has this mobility pattern, still supported in practice by the Portuguese government, on the people, on the other species, on nature? The answers are known by you all. Reducing motor traffic is an evolutionary need, that is, if humanity intends to last. The increasing dependency on the automobile was motivated by the urban sprawl, the comfort ethos, and the status symbolism that this supposed means of individual freedom constitutes. How free do these people feel stuck in traffic? When private property becomes the measure of freedom, people lose sense of the collective and of the impossibility of effective freedom and peace without equity. Automobility has contributed to this delusion, the erosion of class awareness. The social status that the car represents plays a big hand in the game of distinction. Throughout modernity, industrialization, the establishment of representative democratic regimes with broad regulations, forms of social protection, and educative systems, bureaucratization, intensive globalization, and urbanization combined with conformism and obedience to authority, led to a mechanization of humanity. In this context of dominant automobility, what we learn by cycling? If we answer that, creating space for cycling in our calendars, in our cities, will gain more supporters. Our focus group analysis was framed in these four main categories, and here we are focusing on the learnings. A direct answer from our students to what do we learn by cycling is that we learn our physical capabilities and limitations and understand how to develop abilities and deal with limitations. We learn to ease our thoughts, to take time to reflect, and we developed persistence and respect. We learn about society, about sharing space, and therefore about power. The knowledge of traffic laws is included here. We learn about our city, places, and landscapes. We learn to enjoy nature, to be in touch with the elements and accept them, as well as to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So we learn about sustainability. As final remarks, there's a long way ahead, not only in this research, of course, in the cycling promotion in Portugal in general, as we must highlight in the focus group discussions, the existing conditions to cycle triggered significant testimonies that can prove the normalization of automobility, the perception of the car as a necessary good for most people, and of the roads as more legitimate scenery for the automobile than for the bicycle. A clear defense of the precarious entitlement of cyclists, who in several views are seen as non-complying to the traffic law. Interestingly, the non-compliance of traffic rules by car drivers is not seen with the same judgment. On contrary, it is normalized. In order to promote the educative potential of velomobility, firstly by increasing the cycling model chairs, we need to change this car-centric culture from within, highlighting its capitalist roots of ideological domination and its negative effects on social justice and human development, while simultaneously proposing velo culture as a healthier, happier, more sustainable and fairer alternative. Our urban spaces need to be rehumanized, reconnected with community and nature, and far more equally shared and owned. Thank you all. Nice to not see you for now, but I hope to see you on the day of the conference.